could have a discussion here about what happened last night. I was here in the audience, outside actually, and what bothers me is that I'd like to know where our rule or where our ordinance or where our state law came last night that the residents who came here, when there was the time to cancel the public hearing on Thursday, when you were aware that you were canceling it, and you knew that you had a contact from that group of residents at Pillsbury, that you knew who the contacts were, that you could have canceled it and nobody would have had to come here. And then what happened is, and remember, those are our clients. Those are the people we work for everywhere in Richfield, business owners and resident owners. Let me just finish. And then to watch one of our planning commission members try to, with a point of order, say, don't we have the right, in effect, to discuss whether or not we should vote, to move a public hearing to another date. And he was shouted down. He was interrupted by the chairman. It was very chaotic. And what bothers me about that is the HRA the week before had voted to not let a public hearing go forward. So it seemed really, really obvious to me that something was different last night. And one of the things was that you were here, Corinne. I don't think you normally attend planning commission meetings, do you? No. Okay, so that right there was curious to me. But I'd like to know how you got the authority to tell people they couldn't come back here on the 23rd of April if they came up here last night and talked. And the reason I asked you that question is because I would have thought that it would have been a lot simpler to say, okay, we've canceled this meeting. The meeting is canceled. Now, anybody that wants to vent to the people that were here last night, take a half hour, take an hour, and let them come up and tell you what the problem was, having sat here and finding out when they get here that meeting had been canceled on Thursday, and just let them say what they want to say. That would have been simple. Not with the exclusion that if you walk up here, you're done. You do not come back to a public hearing. I don't know where that came from. I don't even know if you had the authority to do it. But it just was really frustrating to sit out there as a council member and listen to that, and to listen how the planning commission member was treated when he was trying to find out if they have the right to discuss whether or not they have reason to move forward with a public hearing.
If I could respond to that. Sure. First, with respect to the commission member Hall, there were two things. One was that I did not understand that he wanted to have discussion of the matter that was on the agenda. The only matter on the agenda was to continue or not continue the hearing.
Right.
And the chair asked for discussion on that issue several times, whether or not the hearing should be continued. So there was opportunity to discuss that item. Commission Member Hall was attempting to address the substance of the proposal, and it was not before the commission, and that was called out of order. And I believe appropriately so, because there was already a motion on the table, or on the floor. There was a motion that had been made and seconded regarding the continuance of the public hearing, and therefore his attempt to then bring another motion before there'd been a vote was out of order, and that was appropriate. And I can't speak to anything else as to whether people were shouting at him. I understood that the commission members were attempting to get his attention. But other than that, I can't speak to that. The issue about having people come up and comment then afterwards, what I was attempting to tell people, and the commission or the chair had already said, that if you are available and can come on the public hearing, on the night of the public hearing, then you need to come back. And only if you're not available, I'm going to allow you to speak. And he was proposing to do that last night. I told the people who were present that they should not do that. Essentially, if there was any possibility of them coming back for that public hearing, they needed to be present at the public hearing, because that is the formal process for getting things on the record in this proceeding. Statements that are made at stray meetings that haven't been noticed for that purpose, and where a public hearing hasn't been opened, that's not the appropriate forum to make their comments a part of the city record. And I was also concerned that they would rely on that, make their comments, and then not come back and make a hearing later. And so that was my reason for telling them, you need to come back on the 23rd. And I thought that I emphasized that it was because the Planning Commission wanted to hear what everybody had to say. I know I repeated that at least twice. It's not a matter of trying to still the public comment. It's a matter of trying to get the public to comment at the appropriate time when it counts, which is at the officially called public hearing.
If you would have allowed them to come up, maybe they would have said to you, why didn't you tell us ahead of time you were canceling this? We'll never know, because you told them if they came up here last night that they couldn't come back on the 23rd. You didn't give them a choice. That's my problem. You took away their right of free speech by saying, if you speak tonight, you're done. You don't come back here. And that's not appropriate.
Well,
and you said
respectfully,
it. Jabs didn't say it. You said it.
Respectfully, Councilmember Wroge, I disagree. No one's free speech rights were violated because it wasn't a public hearing. There wasn't a right to speak last night. I was emphasizing when their right to speak on the issue really was coming forward. If someone was upset with the way the hearing was conducted, they have the opportunity, even during open forum tonight, to speak to an item that's not on the agenda. If in any way I offended someone by telling them this is the time to speak, don't speak now. I mean, April 23rd is the time to speak. I apologize for that. But I'm not going to apologize for attempting to protect the process and the record so that it proceeds in the manner that the law anticipates.
Okay. And with respect to you, when you said if you come up here and talk tonight and you had no idea what they were going to talk about, it might have been just to say, if you were going to cancel this, you could have done it on Thursday. It could have been that simple. You don't know, I don't know, and we will never know now. But when you said if you come up here and speak tonight, you will not be allowed, is the words you used, to come back here on the 23rd and speak. Where did that come from? What legal right did you have to take away their option to come up here and say, you know, you should have told us Thursday that this thing was canceled? I don't get
I will
that's
say,
the problem
I was
I'm
assuming,
having.
I will say it was my assumption that people were going to speak to the merits of the issue and not to an issue about procedure, because that's how the chair had opened it, by saying the hearing on this is on the 23rd. You need to come back on the 23rd, but if you can't be present on the 23rd, we'll allow you to speak now. So he hadn't opened it for any issue of any kind or any comment of any kind. He had opened it for response or comments on the matter that had previously been scheduled for the public hearing. And my concern was that if the comments were taken at that hearing, that it was not officially part of the record. Basically, it was extraneous, and also that they would be commenting on a proposal that hadn't even been submitted. It would be, in one sense, irrelevant.
Okay, but I would also remind you that we let somebody come up here and talk you let somebody come up and talk last night that gave a quick overview of what of a presentation. Okay, maybe if you're going to withhold the residents from being able to speak, maybe the developer shouldn't have spoke either last night once it was canceled.
Well,
okay?
Mr. Wroge, again,
I'm not trying to get any credit out there, so I don't really want anybody making any comments. This is about what happened last night, and I was ashamed of what happened. That's my personal opinion, okay? I thought it could have been handled a lot more professionally. We allowed one person to come up here and give a verbal presentation of what he was going to do, okay? What he was going to do instead. Then we didn't let anybody else come up and talk, except if they wanted to give up their right to come back on April 23rd. I thought that was wrong, and no matter what you say, you told people you couldn't come back, and that to me was wrong. You might not want to agree, you might not ever acknowledge it, but I hope it doesn't happen again. And I hope that the rest of the Planning Commission members will use the book that they're supposed to use. If somebody doesn't know how to do the rules, then maybe they should get a different person running the commission.
Okay.
This idea that you stop somebody from trying to say, why should we move forward with a public hearing later if this is going on? He never got that choice. Never got that chance. That to me shouldn't happen here. It just shouldn't happen.
I understand your complaint, and I accept it.
Thank you.
I want to make it absolutely clear to every member of this council and to every member of the public. Nothing that I have said was to prevent any member of the public from being heard. And if you disagree with how I handled it, I understand that, and I accept that you disagree. But my intention was to protect the rights of the public to be heard at the appropriate time and to ensure that their comments would be heard at the appropriate time.
How many people spoke after you made that threat, or whatever you want to call it?
Last night was not the appropriate time. That's the point. Last night was not the appropriate time for comments on a proposal that hasn't been completed. And I understand how frustrating the delays in this entire project have been, both to the council and to the community. I totally understand that. And it's been frustrating to the staff as well. But I was attempting to protect the ability of the community to comment at the appropriate time. And I guess that's all that I can say.